Hello and welcome to Stories Lived, Stories Told, a dialogue-driven podcast exploring how to create better social worlds through better communication. I'm Abbie, and today it's just me giving you a brief kind of closing episode for the year of 2025 and the season 4 of this podcast. It's been a really wonderful year full of really enriching conversations. They were for me. I hope that they were for you as well. I wanted to provide us a moment of reflexivity by offering this short episode where I can share some of my reflections on the year and my hopes for the year and years and seasons of this podcast to come. As always, I hope for this to be a conversation, not just between me and the guests that I have on the podcast, but between myself and you as the listeners as well. Obviously, podcasting is a little bit of a tricky medium if you're trying to have a dialogue going. Perhaps it feels like I'm just talking at you or to you without a great avenue for a direct response. But I want to remind you of and invite you to engage with me with this podcast, with the community around this podcast in all the ways that are available to you. I'm always available through email, which is storieslived.storiestold@gmail.com. If you have ideas for the podcast, questions that come up during conversations, or any kind of comments that you would like to share based on your listening, you're always welcome to email me there. I'm particularly interested to hear who you are as a listener and how you're using this podcast so that I can continue to refine what I'm offering so that it aligns with what the listeners want. So if you are an educator and you're looking for ways to use this podcast as a resource in the classroom, I'd love to collaborate with you on that and help make that a reality. If you are just an individual who is trying to learn more about communication, I'd love to connect with you around that and think about what conversations for future podcast episodes might be most meaningful, and also see what other resources I could connect you with. So again, my hope is for this to be a dialogue as much as possible, even as it is mediated through this technology that connects us in new and interesting ways. So, of course, there's always the email. You can follow and subscribe to the CMM Institute Substack, and that will allow you to leave comments on these episodes and see comments from others who are listening if you're looking to be more in dialogue with our community. Stories Live, Stories Told is also on Instagram. I'll be posting reels, clips from the episodes there in the new year. So you can find us at Stories Lived, Stories Told Pod there if you want to stay up to date. And also see the faces of the people you are listening to on this podcast. That's going to be the place where you will be able to associate a name with a face, with a voice that you're hearing on the episodes. These are all great ways to stay in dialogue. The last thing I'll mention is the CMM Institute and myself, Abbie VanMeter, on LinkedIn. That's where I'm posting a lot of what we're doing because so many people are using this in their work worlds and their personal lives. So it's a really great space for us to be sharing and engaging, comments, reposting. The CMM Institute group that is on LinkedIn, again, all are great places to be in conversation, not only with me, but with others too. So again, just a thank you for the ways that you have engaged and an invitation for you to continue to engage in new ways and take a moment to reflect on what you hope to get out of the podcast and the community that surrounds it. At this time of the year, I'm also taking a moment to celebrate how far we've come with this podcast. We have just surpassed 25,000 total listens across all. I think we're a little over 150 episodes at the time that I'm recording this. And that's such a milestone and something I'm happy to celebrate and want to include you in the celebration of, because you are those numbers and you are the stories and lives and voices behind those numbers. And so you make this possible. And I just want to extend my gratitude to you. And I want to share with you my goal to start towards the next 25,000 listens, to see that number really grow, which again, you will be such an important part of. So my hope is that this podcast truly is for everybody, because we're all communicating every moment of our lives, whether we're saying words or not. And we all have the, I think, opportunity and responsibility to create these better social worlds. It's so important to me that these tools, the language of CMM and the skills associated with it, are as accessible as possible. So I ask for your help a little bit going forward, that whenever there is an episode that really resonates with you or makes you think of someone in your life, if you can share that, that helps us to extend our community and invite more and more people into the conversation. Again, a conversation that is for everybody. I want to hear as many voices as possible and represent as many voices as possible, and teach and learn with as many voices as possible for this podcast. So again, thank you so much for getting us to 25,000 listens, and for taking a moment to celebrate that milestone with me. Looking towards 2026, I don't know what the year holds yet, and I'm really looking forward to finding out. Although I am doing my best to let 2026 begin in 2026, I've already begun to have some conversations with people who might want to be guests on the podcast in the coming year. So I'm very excited about what I am hoping to create and what I expect will emerge over the coming year. I'll be taking a break in January from posting podcasts. That's just to give me a little time to get a head start on the next year, give you time to catch up on any episodes you might want to go back and listen to. I know that there's so much content out in the world for all of us to consume. And so I just want to be mindful about giving us a pause in that. And so I, again, invite you to be mindful and use this break also to reflect on what you've heard, to pause in your consuming, and maybe take an opportunity to create something. Again, maybe that's a message to me, a message to this community in one of the ways you're able to comment, or a piece of art or music or poetry, any kind of expression that you can step into. I think that this pause is a great moment for us to do the things that we don't get to do every day, because we're often so busy doing the things we have to do. So what are the ways that you can make this period of rest that I'm inviting you to be a part of truly restorative and also creative for yourself? That's how I will be spending the time. Again, this like beautiful reflexivity of thinking on what has been and looking toward what is to come, and letting those two things be in conversation with each other, seeing the turns that create the patterns that you're a part of. So again, January will be a break, and we will see you for new episodes in the new year in February. Some last reflections I'd love to share with you as I wrap up 2025 are my perspective on just how much this podcast has changed from the early episodes to now, and how proud I am that that is all captured episode to episode, that you can really see my learning. It gives me nowhere to hide, and makes me really have to confront the ways that I have learned through doing. And that just has been such an incredible experience to me, that, I really loved the formal education I had of getting my undergraduate degree in interpersonal communication at Ball State, and the learning I've done since getting a degree has been so incredibly valuable. I've had such great mentorship, and through the podcast conversation, such incredible opportunities to explore new ideas with people who have entirely different perspectives, fields, knowledge, experiences from me. And I just feel like my experience with this podcast has really helped me to shed any barriers, or let go of any barriers I may have been holding on to about kind of my place in learning, and what I can contribute, and what I can, ask for or find in other people's experiences. And so the one thing that I am really proud of this year that I'd like to name is the way that the podcasts in this past season, and season 4, have really come to be individual turns in a larger story, because in the past, sometimes I have recorded podcasts in a different order than they were published, just based on when people were available, or in previous years, trying to group podcasts around a specific theme, which was valuable in its own way. But because I recorded and released them in the same order, I was able to reference back to other conversations in the newer conversations, because I knew that those were already out and would have been listened to, and people would have context for that. And I found the richness of that all of these conversations are not isolated and individual. They are in conversation with each other, for me, and I hope for you, that there's so much there when we weave in all these ways of thinking. And so again, something I'm taking away is just the richness of when our ideas and stories come together, when we can be open to other ways of being and ways of thinking, and let those intertwine and braid together to create something really strong and something new and something useful. So this podcast has come so far. I'm excited to see where it goes next. I'm excited to keep the things that I really liked from podcasting this year, bring some new things in, and as always, continue to be in conversation with you, so that this is a truly co-created space. I'm sure the second that I stop recording, I will think of a million more things to say, but I'm going to pause it here for now and trust that I'll have more opportunities to say things to you and to hear from you, and that this is enough of a wrap, enough closure for all of us as we end 2025. And thinking to 2026, I see now more than ever the importance of this work, and for each of us to see ourselves as active participants in creating better social worlds. The challenges we are facing in our world are huge and incredibly daunting, and can feel overwhelming and debilitating when we feel powerless because we're not in, maybe more explicit positions of power. But we do have power in our own social worlds and in our interpersonal communication. And so my hope is that you want to join me in a revolution of building better social worlds through this kind of work and through this kind of thinking, and CMM as a framework. So that's my hope for 2026. And thank you so much for a wonderful 2025. We will see you in the new year.